I find that things like quality, technology, finishing and innovation tends to be introduced in sort of the luxury products, and then it trickles down into more affordable products. And I've definitely noticed that in affordable watches over the last 10 years. Affordable watches are getting all these amazing things. They are improving. They are taking aspects that are from those more expensive and luxury products. And it makes me think now, after 10 years of watch collecting, after seeing all these things being put into affordable watches, well, what's next for affordable watches? Hello, you're watching James. My name's James. You're watching me, and I am talking about watches. And well, have I seen a lot of stuff introduced into affordable watches over the last 10 years. And I have to say, it feels like it's all happening even quicker as we go along. The last few years, it feels like things have changed with affordable watches more than the 7 years before that. And I think this is being pushed from two separate places. Firstly, microbrands. Microbrands are becoming a staple in the watch world, and they are creating some amazing watches, and they are doing things that they want for their own specific watches. So they're getting enthusiast watches. And I think the watches coming out of China are taking this inspiration and finding, yes, enthusiasts are wanting these watches. So they're starting to create them. So over the past few years, all this stuff has now translated into affordable watches. It wasn't that long ago that we were all asking for affordable watches to have movements with hacking and hand winding. It wasn't very long ago that we were wanting sapphire crystals and solid end links and solid bracelets and screw pins and wanting milled clasps. Those have become pretty much a standard. Maybe not all of the big brands and affordable watches from the big brands, but it's definitely starting to translate into those watches as well. So we've now got this amazing amount of watches with these things that we've been asking for. And it makes me think, well, what is next for affordable watches? What are we going to start seeing in those affordable watches? And when I think that, I start to think about what's happening in those more expensive watches. What technology, what innovations are happening that hopefully trickles down to something that I can more justify buying. And some of these things I think have already started to happen, and I think it's just going to happen more and more, like case materials. In the last couple of years, we've seen a bit of an explosion of titanium cases in affordable watches. In fact, you can buy $50 watches now that have titanium cases. That was not the norm 5 years ago, and I think it's going to continue. I think case materials which are being used now and innovated in these more luxury watches like carbon and all sorts of different types of materials and mixtures of materials, steel and carbon and different things, I think that is going to trickle down to affordable watches too. So we're going to start seeing different case materials in affordable watches. We've already started seeing some interesting materials being used in dials and textures in dials. I think microbrands have really pushed this to the forefront in more affordable watches. Dials made out of stone, dials with interesting 3D textures inbuilt into them, dials that have then sort of been translating from watches that are more expensive that you used to have to buy from that are now in more affordable watches. And I think that is going to continue. And precious metals. Now, of course, I don't think we're going to get a full gold watch bracelet, full gold case in an affordable watch. We just can't because of the cost of the raw material. But I've already started to see a couple of brands using touches of precious materials in more affordable watches. And I think that would actually be quite nice. If it's used well and executed properly, it could look good, present well, and give you a little bit of a sense of, oh, there's a little bit of gold or a little bit of platinum or something within the watch. Wise watches are doing a golden dial now, and it's real gold. It's only a very small amount of gold, but it has now got a golden dial. I can foresee hands being made out of precious metals or indices made out of precious metals or just little elements which don't cost a huge amount because the raw materials are minute, but they are introduced into more affordable watches. And I definitely see micro brands pushing this. Imagine having a platinum secondhand or something like that. Just a little thing that might elevate the watch a little bit for you and add something a bit different. So I think that hopefully might happen in affordable watches in the near future. And of course, I think we're all aware that on-the-fly adjustment in clasps is definitely starting to come into affordable watches. This was something that 5 or 10 years ago, really you were lucky if you got it on a Rolex, let alone anything else. And now that is really starting to translate into affordable watches. And again, microbrands are pushing this, watches from China are pushing this, and I think it's going to become more regular. And what I'm more excited about and what I more hope is going to happen is that these get refined, because some of them are a little bit chunky, these clasps. I know it can be done thinner. There are brands that do it thinner, but they are more expensive brands. So I think the refinement of the adjustable clasp, the on-the-fly adjustment, is going to occur. So we're going to end up with these nice, sleek clasps with some on-the-fly adjustment. Now, not everything when it comes to things that are going to be put into affordable watches is going to be a brand new innovation. I think there's also refinements like fit and finish, and in particular finish. And I've already noticed such big leaps ahead in recent years of just how well affordable watches are being finished. When you look at some of these affordable watches under macro, you start to wonder, whoa, how are they doing this at this price? Now, I'm not saying that they are Zaratsu polished watches, but I think as time goes past, as technologies to actually implement this happen, that it's going to get closer and closer to finishes that are like that in affordable watches. And something else that I've noticed popping up more and more is interesting complications. Have you seen how many jump hour watches are out there on the affordable watch market now? You can get jump hour watches for $100. You can get jump hour movements that have been used in a different way to have an interesting complication on the dial. And I think that's going to happen more. Just look at Christopher Ward and the Bel Canto. Okay, it's not a super affordable watch, but for what they've designed, it's affordable compared to its competitors. They've taken a movement, they've made some modifications to it, and now they've got a chiming watch at a relatively affordable in that range price category. And I think, well, if Christopher Ward is doing that, what other complications are going to occur? Are we going to end up with a minute repeater that is relatively affordable at some stage? I don't see it happening today or even tomorrow, but I do see it happening someday. Maybe we can end up with a relatively affordable minute repeater one day. And definitely design language. And I'm talking about more of those sort of far out there wow watches, the Jacob & Co. watches, you know, those big domes with the planets that are spinning around, things that cost $1 million. I think those kind of designs are going to start coming down into affordable watches too. And there's definitely some watches like that, or at least themed like that a little bit coming down. Look at the cigar design Blue Planet. Okay, different to that Jacob & Co, but I can see some parallels between them. And that cigar design, albeit not super cheap, still relatively affordable, certainly more affordable than $1 million Jacob & Co. And something that I've seen a couple of times, and I hope that this is something that happens more, and that is handcrafted watches. I think as more people get involved in this hobby, and it feels like more people are getting more involved in it, I think there's going to be a select portion of those people that are then going to go down the watchmaking rabbit hole. And as they do that, they're going to start creating watches themselves. And if they be realistic about it, and there are people that are doing this, that are making one-off watches, handcrafted watches, possibly not high-level luxury, perfectly finished watches, but handcrafted individual watches that are being sold for relatively affordable prices. So you can own a one-off watch that has been handcrafted for a relatively affordable price. And I hope that this starts happening more. I hope more watchmakers start sort of niching into this. Start being realistic with their prices. You know, they cover their costs, they cover their hourly rate for what they've put into the watch, they take into account taxes and things, but then sell the watch for a proper amount of money, not huge luxury prices, and allow us as the more affordable watch collectors to gain access to a handcrafted watch. I really hope that this is going to happen. There's one guy that I've seen online in the UK that's doing this. They're not perfectly finished watches, but they're all individual, they're all handcrafted, and they're at a price that is achievable. You know, that sort of Bel Canto sort of money. If you can buy a Bel Canto, or you can buy this one-off handcrafted watch, well, I think that would be quite cool. It'd be nice to have that accessible to us. And something else that I've been thinking about for a long time that I've now seen in a particular brand is internal lighting. A button you press and it lights up the dial. And I think that's a great idea in a mechanical watch. And I'm not specifically saying that it has to be mechanically driven, this LED light, but it'd be nice to almost have like a hybrid, a mechanical watch with maybe a small battery that it then lights it up. It gives it something a little bit extra fun. Things like the Timex Indiglo, that really stands out for those watches. It'd be nice to have that sort of feature, but integrated into a mechanical watch. And there's a very high-end brand that's actually doing mechanically charged, powered internal light, and maybe that will trickle down into the more affordable realm, and that would be very cool. You could do some really funky, interesting designs with a light involved, but still have a mechanical watch. And one thing that I hope happens, I'm not sure if it will happen, I'm not sure if this is something that is going to trickle down from something else, but I just really hope it happens. I hope that they start bringing out some quartz movements that have a smooth, sweeping second hand. Now, I'm not talking spring drive from Grand Seiko, I'm just talking about a smooth sweep second hand from a quartz movement, a relatively affordable quartz movement. And I don't really understand how you could possibly do that, but I can certainly see that somebody's going to figure this out. There's going to be something that can be attached to a quartz movement that breaks that sort of cycle of the second ticking and turns it into a smooth sweep. And if that happened, I would be buying more quartz watches, because that simple thing of turning it to a nice smooth sweep would be lovely. And I just don't understand why it's not being done. Maybe it's harder to do than I'm thinking, but I'm sure if they started releasing watches like that, a lot of us would be drawn towards them. And something that I really hope starts happening more, and I've started seeing it a couple of times on microbrands and even one Aliexpress brand, is integrated links for straps. I've had a couple of watches that come with like an adapter. It's a full solid end link, fits into your watch like it would for a bracelet. However, it's not designed for the bracelet. It's designed for a strap. So rather than have the strap sit there between the lugs, it feels like it's integrated into the watch. And it looks really good, and it elevates the watch. And it is relatively simple, I would think, just making these little end links. Once the design is done for that watch, it just becomes part of the watch and it gives you that option. And I think it just elevates the watch hugely. I really enjoy when I have a watch like that. And there aren't that many of them out there. I'd really like to know what you think might be coming next for affordable watches. If I missed anything, I'm absolutely sure that I have. Please leave me a comment down below. I want to hear from you. I actually want to get some ideas of what could be happening next, and maybe get a little bit excited about those possibilities too. Thanks for watching, guys. Maybe watch these videos next.